So we've just survived another national tragedy. And this is basically strike three, depending on how you look at it, for preemptively banging the drum of war against the trans community when we are just living our lives and you are demonizing us for existing without getting your facts straight. The first time this year was the DC pilot, a trans woman that crashed this plane and killed all these people, except it was a living trans woman that had nothing to do with it. Very much strike one. The next one was the detransitioner. Oh, the detransitioner that we continue to call a trans person, and we should focus more instead that they were a detransitioner and that they, kind of needed their mental health in check. Maybe it was because they weren't on their medication. Maybe it was important for them to continue the medication. Have we ever looked into why or like what happened? Or yeah, you kind of have to like understand the facts of like you start and stop hormones, like things change in your body. And I think the importance of that and focusing on that whenever on September 8th we have the federal funding for trans surgeries and therapy and medication under attack, which could eventually and will eventually lead in like Medicaid, Medicare under attack. And that's supposed to start at the beginning of 2026 if that's voted upon. Strike two. So now we have more recent events. Charlie Kirk's death, which we have how many people for the past few days. It's now September 12th. We now have a suspect in custody or whatever. But you've blamed trans people nonstop, relentlessly on social media for this. You've blamed trans people, but not only was it trans people, it was South Park. But not only was it South Park, but also there was like three other suspects. But also the transvestigators have to come in, and here's the red line showing off their hips and their curvature and their whatever. And then here's a video of like, here's the vantage point. This is where I'd be if I were shooting it. And then we have, in the description of the video, transgender shooter. And then we have other posts about these bullet shell casing that have the letters that are inscripted in whatever, normal bullets or whatever, like literally a common thing. And that, whoever is involved in looking over these cases, FBI, whatever, I don't know all the details. My brain is scrambled eggs from literally putting up with everybody, all this stuff this year. I'm doing my best to explain it, but like, yeah, the FBI, whatever, looked at these shells, and then they made a public statement saying like, yeah, this has like trans, anti-fascist, whatever rhetoric on it. But then we find out later that it's just a normal artillery shells with the whatever that it's like, it says TRS or whatever on it. And the reason why they're doing it is to villainize this community. The reason why they're doing it is to try and erase us. They are trying their best and succeeding in stirring the pot, right? I think trans people at this time should start doing group therapy immediately. Like, we need to be able to talk to each other and work through our issues and problems together and like actually be able to come to a resolve with some of this stuff, because this is kind of sickening. 3.5 hours after Charlie Kirk's death, the Senate voted to not release the Epstein file list because it was largely already released and it's a threat to national security if not done properly. But at the same time, we're like going after trans people. Not necessarily everybody, but there are a fair handful of people. Now, I have to ask you this, right? If all trans people disappeared right now, they're gone. What are you going to do in your spare time? Are you going to sit around and talk about how much your life is amazing? Like, is it going to make your life so much better now? Less than 1% of people. You don't even know a trans person. You spend literally your whole day talking about trans people. When they disappear, what happens next? Exactly. You're just going to move on to the next group to hate. It's sick and sad and disgusting. And there is a serious mental illness crisis in America. And I don't see it within the trans community. I see it with everybody that continues to demonize and attack us without knowing the facts, without knowing the details of who we are. We've put in the time and energy and effort to be who we are. I've been on hormones for over 12 years, long before the president or anybody else even knew what trans people were and hated them, kind of thing. This is pathetic, and we need to do better. I think people that go after trans people and demonize us and attack us like this need to be held responsible for the damages that they're actually causing. Science news, neurologically, when you're under enough stress, you get dementia, you get like you get these cognitive abilities that affect you. Feeling freakish. If you feel like you're an outcast, if you feel like a freak, your body can develop in a way that makes you freakish. Trans people aren't the problem. Trans people aren't the freaks here. The people that are today, after finding out the shooter is not trans, still going on social media and saying, that's a guy in a dress, or oh, he has his panties in a bunch, and blah, 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 stuff like that. Great, fantastic. You need help. You seriously need help. We are so spread out across everywhere. We don't have an organized place. We don't go to a bar and hang out with 60 other trans people. We literally are sporadic everywhere. So what we have is like social media to like bring us together. And when we go on social media, we have these unskippable hate after hate after hate of trans people, and it's not helping anybody. The way that Facebook has changed their layout, that we have to see trans hate so frequently, and what it is doing to normal people that had nothing against a trans person in 2024 that is now just gung-ho against us. There's mental illness, and social media is largely a part of it, but that's just the way it's shaped. And we need to understand and recognize that this is damaging a group of people that are doing nothing wrong to anybody. You are basing, if you know, you can't base one single person and judge everybody as an entire entity when we aren't even connected hardly in a way that you like in any way that anyone else is connected. And I feel that trans people are kind of like the front line of defense of just hate in America right now. We are taking it head on, and I think there should be some consequences put into place for people that blatantly attack us day after day after day without understanding the repercussions of what this is doing to people. We've spent 6 months being villainized, and if there were, if there was an event that a trans person did do something, it's going to catastrophically affect all of us. But at the same time, I wouldn't even put it past somebody when you've continued to villainize us the way that you do, the way that it's been. And I'm not saying it's an individual. I'm not saying this or that, but the way as a whole that we are taking the trans community and just running them under the bus. We're making it harder for them to get therapy. We take away their, we take away their lifelines if they're feeling depressed. We're going to take away their medication, affordability. Why not make everybody detransition? See what happens. I mean, that's sick. That is the sickest thing. The policy to detransition people and have them go into a faith-based type situation. That is one of the sickest things I've ever seen since like MK Ultra. As somebody that had stopped hormones for 2 years and has been on ever since, I was on for 2 years, off for 2 years, on the rest. That window of 2 years was some of the darkest time of my life. I would say that is the darkest window. 2025 has been the second, and then pre-transition was the third. So congratulations, you've made it probably easier to just not transition and be happier than trying to transition, right? In this current political climate, but that doesn't mean that you're not damaging and hurting the individuals that need to do that and move on with their life in that direction. We need a serious evaluation of everything that's going on here, and people need to be held a little bit more responsible for the damages they're causing. This community doesn't deserve anything but love and support, because we already face enough.